From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Mark joins Senator Chuck Grassley's weekly Ag conference call. I talk with Fred Hall of Iowa State University Extension about the increase in consumer demand for whey protein, and Dustin sits down with U.S. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins. Now let's join our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman. Well, Dustin, the pattern continues as we had more severe weather yesterday. We had more rainfall here in central Iowa, and it's all setting up to cause our farmers to take just a little bit of time here to let things dry out, as I'm sure they are all itching to get out in the fields. I know some of them have been already, and we've heard those reports from different parts of the state where farmers are rolling with their planters right now, and then in other states as well. For example, Illinois, our neighbors to the east, very different weather pattern. They have not been getting the rain in the southern portions of the state, and I think even into central Illinois, but northern Illinois has been getting some of that rain. So it's been, it's been in different areas like it always is with the weather, but at least here where we are in central Iowa, it is certainly set up for a good start to the growing season if we can just get that window to get in there and plant.
Yeah, and as Riley was talking yesterday, you can find on the website, iowaagnet.com, he has that story about, farmers in the extreme southwestern part of the state that did already go ahead and plant, and now they're worried about with all the rain, will there be replanting already? And so that's some interesting information. Get a chance to check that out. But, definitely a good conversation there. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Again, more rain expected tomorrow. Again, some more rounds of severe weather possible again as things warm up, but then it's supposed to cool down again Saturday. He said lows back in the low 30s again. So we're getting closer. The warm days are outweighing the cold ones, but it's still not letting go yet. And it's just one of those years again, like always, that Mother Nature's just going to give us whatever she wants, and we got to figure out how to handle it.
And I have a not so smart weather question for you. I know we've heard a lot about the super El Nino that is headed our way, as it has been termed, which means that it is, I guess, essentially more of the extreme version of El Nino. But are we in effect for the El Nino now? Has that changed over? I guess I don't know the answer to that. Do you, Dustin?
Right now, from what I understand, this Godzilla El Nino, as they're calling it, they really haven't gotten us a date about how the transition is supposed to happen, but that it is going to happen. And when it does, it means more rain and more warm weather for this part of the country. So we could be seeing the beginnings of that already. But then again, we were coming out of multiple La Nina years where we saw wet springs and then the spigot would shut off in the summertime. Now, if we switch to an El Nino in the middle of summer, we could be seeing that rain come back and maybe not let up so much. And so we've got to be careful with that as well. But again, we're regenerating subsoil moisture. We're making sure we've got enough moisture that if we don't, get a lot of rain in the summer, we should still hopefully have had a good enough start that things should be well developed and well on their way. And of course, we'll talk about springtime stuff, planting and soil temperatures and much more coming up here throughout the morning and throughout this midday. But right now, we're going to find out what's happening with the grains, corn and soybeans, both a little lower here to start the day in the morning. Mark Magnuson talking now with Joe Camp of Comstock Investments.
Joined today by Joe Camp of Comstock. Joe, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Got some strength led by wheat. Wheat's been the most sensitive, it would seem, lately to the ongoing escalation of the conflict in the Middle East. You've got that really key region of not just the Middle East, but all of North Africa, where there's such a heavy wheat trade. We're talking about the world's most heavily traded food commodity there in wheat, and showing its possible disruption there. And what could be a better demand for the U.S. market to follow. Exports haven't been all that bad here already to this point on U.S. wheat. And, to dovetail with the tailwind would be that we've got these weather issues in the U.S., and that would mostly ride on the hard red winter wheat crop in the southern plains, the drought there lingering throughout the winter. Some better prospects for rains ahead, but maybe not enough to save what's already a diminished thought on yield potential going forward. So wheat, the leader so far. We had both sides a little bit lower to start on corn and soybeans, but now wanting to at least test a flip back higher. This has been a week where it's all over the place, different directions, not just on a daily basis, but among the grains themselves in opposite ways. We started the week negative on soybeans regarding Iran and China. Then we had a tweet or a post from President Trump that was more favorable on China relations. So it's very much a day-to-day, minute-by-minute type of active trade here still.
Joe, a geopolitical question for you. With all of the effects that we have from the conflict in the Middle East, and I'm thinking about, you talked about the wheat situation. Of course, fertilizer doesn't only affect, the United States, it affects the whole world. Do you think pressure's ramping up then to just resolve the situation in the Middle East from countries all over the world trying to put pressure on both sides to come to a peaceful resolution?
That would be a big part of it. The source of energy for so many countries there. I mean, talking about those percentages before the war broke out, some 20+% of crude oil flows and seaborne natural gas shipments as well coming through the Strait of Hormuz, not just the Strait of Hormuz, but you've got the Gulf of Oman, these other straits that are very sensitive and facing disruptions by the conflict, now the blockade. And you mentioned fertilizer, that seemed to be a big part of why corn futures rallied. I would throw out there yesterday, coming in a strong move for corn. We'd been mostly lower here, and then kicking off some bullishness, this concept of maybe more acres shifting away from corn because of this influence of fertilizer, discussions about not all farmers being pre-booked, and then seeing rising costs and making the decision to go to a less expensive crop, say soybeans. And so that was a big part of the rally, it would seem, and will still remain a conversation as the new U.S. Planting season unfolds.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. You can find us online at iowaagnet.com. It is time now for more audio from Senator Chuck Grassley's weekly ag conference call. That took place this week on Tuesday. And Senator Grassley was asked about potential additional farm aid for farmers with all of the disruptions being caused by the conflict in the Middle East, and also about the permanent year-round E15 solution. How is that going to be moved through Congress? What vehicle could that be attached to for legislation? Here's Senator Grassley with more. Year-round E15 and additional farm aid are not expected to be included in a new GOP party line budget bill. United States Senator, Republican from Iowa, Chuck Grassley, says that the reconciliation bill will not include relief for farmers in the way of year-round E15 or additional farm aid.
Reconciliation won't have farm aid in it. I'm hopeful immediately after the budget that we do a farm and a national security package, which would include E15.
According to Grassley, the White House has strongly advocated for separate legislation to replace munitions that were used in the war with Iran. Senator Grassley argues that the war funding bill would be the logical place to include additional farm aid and or permanent year-round E15 legislation.
The prominence of the war and the increased farm input costs through urea and diesel is very much connected. I'm going to let the world know about that.
After further questions from farm broadcasters and reporters, Grassley reiterated that year-round E15 won't be part of the reconciliation bill and instead fits better into the war funding package.
This whole connection between input costs of farmers related to diesel going up and urea costs going up, that it's a perfectly legitimate place to put E15.
Senate Majority Leader Thune has stated that he wants a skinny budget bill. Senator Grassley made his comments on Tuesday during his weekly ag conference call with farm broadcasters and reporters.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I have been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Well, Mark, you had the chance to listen in on that call with Senator Grassley and, talking about some of the things that he was looking at, for moving this bill or moving this legislation. How kind of give us your takeaway from all this?
I think, makes a lot of sense, his thought process of what he was mentioning. The fact that we have the reconciliation bill, which is strictly a budget bill that's coming up. And so he's essentially arguing that there shouldn't be additional farm aid included in that. E15 should not be included in that because Senator Thune, the majority leader, has announced, he wants a skinny bill for reconciliation, which means pretty much straightforward on budget issues. And then Senator Grassley has said, well, there's going to be an additional funding package for the war in Iran to replace those munitions that were used. And so he's saying that's the direct effect of what's causing the higher input prices. So that's where you could potentially add on E15. You could add on additional farm aid if that were the case, because those things are directly influencing farmers and, their decisions they're making right now with inputs.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, and I when I was talking with Brooke Rollins yesterday, kind of off the interview beforehand, she was talking about, some of the importance of getting this done because we just needs to be done with and over with, and we need to have that certainty in the marketplace. So interesting to see how this will go forward. More Iowa Ag Matters in a moment.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Time to run down the basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Thursday. I'm Dustin Huffman. Few elevators making changes here today, both to corn and soybeans. No real trend established, but all of them have made positive momentum. Let's take a look at where they're bidding. IAM in Burlington, they are 7 cents under on corn at $4.44. Soybeans 25 cents under at $11.40. Cargill Eddyville 11 cents under on corn, $4.40 for the cash bid. New Co-op Algona 40 cents under on corn, $4.11. Soybeans 68 cents under at $10.97. Ag State Sheldon 22 cents under on corn, $4.29. Soybeans 70 cents under, $10.95. Ag State Elta 34 cents under on corn, $4.17. Soybeans 70 cents under, $10.95. Cargill Cedar Rapids 9 cents under on corn, $4.42. Soybeans 20 cents under, $11.45. Their annual corn shutdown is going on right now through tomorrow. Five Star Co-op Nashua 28 cents under on corn, $4.23. Soybeans 62 cents under at $11.03. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada 15 cents under on corn, $4.36 for the cash bid. Soybeans at ADM Des Moines 25 cents under, cash price $11.40. New Co-op Red Oak 30 cents under on corn, $4.21. Soybeans 62 cents under at $11.03. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain 45 cents under on corn, $4.06. Soybeans 78 cents under, $10.87. New Co-op Sheraton 30 cents under on corn, $4.21. Soybeans 62 cents under, $11.03. Waukon Feed Ranch 42 cents under on corn, $4.09. Soybeans 60 cents under at $11.05. New Co-op Glidden 38 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.13. Soybeans 65 cents under at $11 even. Innovative Ag Farley 43 cents under on corn, $4.08. Soybeans 68 cents under, cash bid $10.97. And at Cargill Muscatine, they're 15 cents under on corn, $4.36. Soybeans are 25 cents under, coming in at $11.40. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a check of your basis report here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
Well, as we know, protein-heavy, protein-rich diets are a popular item for a lot of Americans right now, and that also factors into the dairy industry. Riley Smith having the chance to speak with the team at the Iowa State University Extension Office about whey protein in dairy and the ability to use that to promote it for those high-protein diets.
Riley Smith, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, on the phone right now with Fred Hall, Northwest Iowa Extension Dairy Specialist with Iowa State University Extension. And Fred, there is some exciting new news for the demand scenario here in the U.S. dairy industry. Specifically here, we're talking on the Iowa dairy industry, and there's a bit of a surge in demand for whey protein. The dairy industry uniquely positioned to maybe be able to take advantage of that. First off, from what you've seen in kind of trends around the country and around the state, what's causing that shift in consumer demand?
I think we can really identify two things that are contributing to this. First, the change in the food pyramid, putting protein squarely featured at the top of the pyramid. Then the second thing would be the strong demand from fitness-focused consumers and individuals using the GLP-1 medications who know that they have to increase their protein intake for that medication to work the way it's supposed to.
So then when we look at the Iowa dairy industry, how are producers and I would say processors as well kind of able to take advantage of this trend, or how will they be able to do that?
Well, I think we've got to recognize that dairy proteins, including casein and whey, are complete proteins containing all 9 essential amino acids, and that gives them a nutritional advantage in the market where consumers increasingly associate protein with muscle health, immunity, and overall wellness. We know that 70 to 80% of consumers are seeking more protein, and manufacturers are boosting dairy protein in a lot of products, both entree and in snacks, while capitalizing on booming ready-to-drink dairy shakes. And finally, dairy producers are selecting matings for cows that will increase protein content of milk. If we look over the last decade, we've made an amazing improvement in the pounds of butterfat in each 100 pounds of milk, and we've increased protein, but now with the additional emphasis on the value of protein in milk, we'll see that improvement increase.
And then when we look at those narrowing profit margins, it's across the ag industry, dairy producers have felt that pretty acutely. With something like this, of the whey prices going up, the demand for that going up so high, will this be able to help offset those narrowing profit margins?
Well, we've got to understand a little bit about how the market for dairy is created. We're actually selling the components of milk as opposed to purely 100 pounds of product. High protein whey powders and isolates have reached record prices, increasing profitability for cheese producers who now earn often close to the same portion of their revenue from whey as they do from the cheese product. And that will translate to improved producer margin, we think, but that remains to be seen. Even high protein shakes are on the shelves, plus high protein coffee, protein sodas. Have you heard about Doritos protein with 10 grams of casein protein in each individual serving? I mean, this is a trend, or some people call it a craze, that really puts milk protein in the forefront.
All right, Fred, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to stay up to date on the latest things impacting the dairy industry here in Iowa, how can they do that?
Well, they can go to our Iowa State Dairy Team webpage. We have a lot of information there, and on the very front of that is our Northwest Iowa Dairy blog and the news releases I do on milk marketing, on risk management, and on our industry changing market structure can be found on that.
All right, Fred, thanks again for your time today, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Looking forward to it.
Stay up to date with the latest in the ag industry with Agribusiness Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Each weekday, we bring you the latest advancements in farming, from new precision ag technology to cutting-edge sustainable farming practices. Agribusiness Matters is also your source for the most relevant ag news, policy discussions, and insights that are shaping the future of agriculture. Tune in to Agribusiness Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson. Joined at midday by Naomi Bloom of Total Farm Marketing. Naomi, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Well, pretty quiet day today for corn and soybeans, but ultimately defending the gains from yesterday. Now, on the wheat market, though, still working higher. Chicago wheat up 10 cents. Kansas wheat up 20 cents. I think still just more on the continued dry weather in the plains, and the crop condition ratings there just continue to get worse. So that market is well supported. But in general, the grain markets right now kind of lacking for a lot of fresh news. Export sales today within the expected ranges. No big surprises, and of course, just keeping one eye on weather and the other on the Middle East.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade today?
Well, on the cattle side, I think what we're seeing is position squaring ahead of the cattle on feed report tomorrow. So the cattle market, of course, has had this nice run up higher over the past month, taking out the October highs or retesting the October highs. And now the market is saying, well, maybe we should just kind of move to the sideline for a little bit until we know for sure what the cattle on feed report says tomorrow afternoon. We're going to need some fresh news to justify cattle prices to go exceedingly higher. But of course, the underlying fundamentals remain supportive in terms of tight supply.
And we have started to see just a little bit more in terms of placements in recent reports, haven't we?
We have, but it seems like that is just because pasture conditions in the West haven't been great. So we're seeing the numbers of placements increase more because of that. And talking with producers in the Western Plains, pasture conditions are still not good. So that might be something to watch for tomorrow. But if you understand the underlying reason why placement levels are higher, we still have a drought situation in this country, which could affect cattle production going forward.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Yeah, feel free to give us a call at 800-334-9779 or look us up online, totalfarmmarketing.com.
Naomi Bloom, Total Farm Marketing, thanks so much for the time and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
That was Naomi Bloom with Total Farm Marketing. We will have a check of the numbers next.
Start your trading day the right way with Market Matters, the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network's first look at the grain markets. Every morning, we bring you the numbers from the overnight session, plus a quick snapshot of the macroeconomy and what's driving market moves. Need to know what's coming next? Market Matters gives you a daily preview of market-moving news and reports so you're ready for the trading day ahead. And don't miss our daily livestock market outlook. Get the analyst predictions before the markets open. Get the edge you need. Tune into Market Matters every weekday morning, only on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
May corn down 0.75 cents at 4.50 December corn up a penny at 4.79. May soybeans down 0.75 cents at 11.66 1/4. November soybeans up 4.5 at 11.59. May soybean meal down 2.60 at 3.31.80. May soybean oil up $1.70 at 69.30. Chicago wheat up 12 cents at 6.05 3/4. Minneapolis wheat is up 10 cents at 6.50. Kansas City hard red wheat up 21 3/4 at 6.47 1/4. May oats down 2 1/4 at 3.43 1/2. On the Merc, June live cattle down 3.38 at 2.47.70. May feeder cattle down 4.18 at 3.66.78. May lean hogs up 23 cents at 94.30. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we're going to continue what's going on in the marketplace here as the cattle and hogs are coming up next as we hear more from Joe Camp of Comstock Investments, continuing that conversation with Mark Magnuson, taking a look at what's happening today as we look at the livestock.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
You still have to put into perspective where we've just achieved these new all-time highs for live cattle. And so, we stand back and think about that for one, recognize that this strength coming from obviously multi years of contraction in the overall herd size, but then these added issues like the screwworm threat and how we've shut off the flow of feeder cattle from Mexico for so long now, over a year, and 1 million plus feeder cattle had previously coming in from south of the border. So a lot of disruption to supply at the same time, not a huge disruption for demand, even at higher prices. We've continued to talk about, it seems every week, how resilient the domestic consumer is to these higher beef prices. And now with temperatures rising into the spring, we're, I think, well set up to be out there using more beef and pork for that matter. But we're now, testing whether or not these all-time highs sustain themselves, or if we start to see more of a corrective break, whether that's speculative or fundamentally driven. One test for both of those positions is going to be coming up at the end of this week, another cattle on feed report already.
And in that report, has there been any trends in the latest reports that you look to continue, or something that we can take some clues on?
The biggest thing would be we finally are seeing this flip into higher placements on, a year ago. And I bring that up because it's always the context of looking at the cattle on feed estimates compared to a year ago. And a year ago, we're talking about, record low numbers. But to slightly see some progress on traction on moving the placements higher, it maybe tells us something about the overall cycle of this herd and finally getting somewhere possibly on rebuilding it.
Joe Camp of Comstock, my guest here today. Head to Comstock.com for all of the marketing information and resources. Thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Mark.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters. This is the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and Dustin Huffman had the chance to speak with Secretary of Agriculture for the USDA, Brooke Rollins, finding out about all of the events that are impacting Iowa's agriculture. Here's Dustin with more.
We're on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I have the privilege right now to be joined by U.S. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins on the phone. Secretary, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us.
Dustin, it's always an honor to be on with you and all of my amazing friends in the Midwest. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So as we're talking today, we're coming to the end of tax day, April 15th. And of course, everybody's got that marked on their calendar in one way, shape, or form. But we're kind of talking today about some of the tax relief and the tax cuts that came with H.R. 1, especially a good time to really highlight those. And farmers were really concerned about some of those things. Secretary, you want to kind of highlight where we're at now as we're getting to this first tax day under that new bill?
Well, yes, and I really appreciate, you don't often have a celebration on tax day, and certainly there is, still so much work to do. People still pay way too much in taxes. The government is way too big. We need the government off the back of everybody. But it's a big day. I mean, that bill itself was the largest tax cut in American history. The average savings for the average family of four in America is between $3,000 and I think $5,000 all the way up to $10,000 and $12,000, depending on where you are. And that's just the average American. For all of our farmers, really, and I know that's kind of where you focus, and being on your agribusiness radio network is really great. It's an honor. But for our farmers especially, that bill represented the largest investment in rural America in history. And it was everything from exempting permanently about 2 million families from the death tax. I had a lot of feedback on that as I was traveling the country in my first year, how important that was. It made permanent 100% expensing. It made permanent and doubling small business expensing, which of course all of our farmers for the most part are usually qualify for small business, deferring capital gains on farmland sales, driving into rural America $100 billion in investments in opportunity zones, which will be very helpful. Of course, the healthcare transformation fund into rural America, the Trump accounts. I mean, it's just kind of one thing after another. So we're really working to celebrate today on what was an unprecedented and historic effort, but especially for our rural communities.
When you talk about death tax and capital gains tax, and when we think of big businesses where you have billionaires involved, obviously there is some, money that has to be paid. But when you talk about farmers, they're asset rich. I mean, the land has got value, but these taxes could be an impediment on passing on the family farm, couldn't they?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, none of this is perfect. This work is difficult and it is hard. And I feel like we're running uphill all day, every day, probably similar to how our farmers feel, right? Based on input costs and no new trade deals for so long and all the struggles out in farm country. So I certainly can attest to that and fighting to try to change all of that. But every little bit helps and every step forward helps. And when I got to USDA about 14 months ago, this U.S. Department of Agriculture under the former administration was really focused more on diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, focused on granting crazy, radical agenda, liberal research like the queer and BIPOC farmers of San Francisco. That was actually a grant that was funded by taxpayer money through USDA. There are many, many others like that. Focused on the climate change things that the president obviously has been very against and has been really good about. So I think that even though times are tough, and certainly right now with fertilizer prices, et cetera, with the conflict overseas, what we're doing to build the long-term infrastructure to change that trajectory with reference prices increasing finally for the first time in over 10 years, will start in October. The tax cuts, I had a big meeting today with fertilizer companies from around the world, reshoring our fertilizer industry, working to bring the input costs down, opening up more trade deals. This is a big deal for Iowa. We are expecting the export of corn to increase more than 20% this year. and ethanol, of course, all tied together, but to increase more than 25% this year, while at the same time bringing labor costs down. Fuel will come back down, et cetera. So we're making progress, even though it's certainly a difficult time.
Your local radio station keeps you connected to your community. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network provides ag-focused programming to keep your farm business running strong. Together, we bring you the latest markets, weather updates, and policy news. Whether we're in the field or in meeting halls, our team is always out and about gathering the news that's important to you. Powered by Iowa Agriculture, trusted by Iowa farmers. This message from your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Well, as we get ready to wrap up another day here on Iowa Ag Matters, to run down these 4-inch soil temperatures. We haven't got a chance to get to those today. Forecasting them to be in the mid-60s across much of the state after yesterday turned out to be mostly in the 50s into the low 60s. And, of course, with the rain, and that's going to affect things. But the sun coming out today might just warm up a little more. Hopefully not too much rain to get in the way tomorrow. Thanks to Mark, thanks to Riley, and thanks to you for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.